Hello, my name is Charles Faulkner III, and today I would like to present my findings, my presentation for theories of personality. And the topic of my presentation is the extroverted individual. In our class, we talked about a lot of topics. Starting off, we talked about the Big Five Personality Inventory, which is an acronym that stands for openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. What we also talked about was some biological standpoints, such as a parental upbringing, such as what could change one's temperament or keep one's temperament to be the same. We also talked about environmental influences, which are not those that are biological, but those that happen around us, such as the type of friends that we hang out with, the type of occupations that we go with. Those are things that can alter one's temperament, which is more different from a parental upbringing, which is more biological. Cultural perspectives are basically changes in our temperament that can happen based on geological locations, such as different locations that we live in. We learn things kind of different. For introverted individuals, I would like to discuss DT. Due to confidentiality, we will only go by his initials. Now, DT, to me, he was a childhood friend that I've known my whole life. He was sociable, very sensation-seeking, charismatic, and confident. To sum it all up, he was extra. He was very outgoing. It didn't matter if he knew you for a long time or if he just met you today. He would always reach his arm out to you. He would make anybody laugh no matter who it was. And to sum it all up, he was very extra about everything he did. Due to the reason why I consider him to be one of the extroverted individuals in which I wanted to talk about today. And there's a couple sources that I have that will also back up and support the data that will clarify that DT is considered an extroverted individual. So according to extraversion and mood findings, there was a study done by James David and colleagues that was done in 1997, and it talked about extraversion and the neuroticism effect. For his study, he had participants use a daily life inventory scale. This scale focused on certain type of activities that could be considered desirable or undesirable. To name a few, undesirable activities could be occupational activities such as going to work, more things that are more focused on putting stress on the individual. And desirable activities will be such as leisure activities, spending time with family, going on vacations, such that after he got the results for this study, he found out that those who were considered more neurotic were the ones that were engaged in more stressful, undesirable activities, compared to those that were more engaged in leisure activities, spending time with family, going on vacations. Those are the ones that are considered to be more extroverted individuals, according to James David and his colleagues' studies that focused on that. Now, how does this compare to DT? DT, as long as I known him, he was very outgoing, tend to stay away from the work and all that stuff. Even though he did work, wherever he worked, to name a few, he would be more outgoing. He would turn work more socializable and fun for the individuals that was there. Even though it was considered work, he still was productive, still got his work done, but he tended to make the most out of any situation that he was in. And it influenced him and also influenced those that were around him as well. Going to show that he was more extroverted instead of letting the environment turn him more into a neurotic individual. And we also talked about trait extraversion in adulthood, and these are the findings. This was a study done by Fernham and Chang in 2018. And this study focused on family social background, assessments, and also leisure activities and optimism. For this study, there was about 5,663 participants, which they took an assessment that focused on the birth, social life, and the childhood. And from there, it focused on both positive and negative experiences in one's life. And similar to the first study, they focused on the same things as well, such as leisure activities, optimism, and they also focused on occupational levels in one individual. And it was found that positive effects happened to those that were considered more extroverted, such as social status, childhood social life, intelligence, speech abilities, sports, optimism, and occupationals associated with extroversion. And this was found for Fernham and Chang in his study. Now, how does that relate to DT? If we're going to compare this study to the one that we talked about before, it focuses on the associations of extroversion. And we talked about the positive and negatives. The positives, those that are in such type of work activity and stuff, they're more prone to stress. Those that make the most out of any situation that they're in, such as work, any stressful activities like that, they tend to still remain extroverted at the time. They still remain sociable. They still find a way to enjoy the activity, find sensation seeking through the activities. For extroversion and popularity, there was a study done by Elmarian and colleagues in 2015 in which they focused on the importance of extroversion and popularity. What they wanted to see is why extroverted individuals are considered more popular than most other personality types. And for this study, they wanted to see who could articulate perfect speech. Which type of children or what type of adolescents had more charisma? Was it the introverted individuals? Was it the extroverted individuals? It was their study that focused on this. What they also focused on was oral fluency, which was made and which was created and which was found by the teachers that also helped when finding this assessment. And it was found that there was more significance with extroverted individuals being more popular compared to introverted individuals being popular. With this being said, there was a likely possibility that extroverted individuals were considered more popular compared to the introverted individuals. And why is this significant to DT? Yes, DT is very popular. A lot of people understand and a lot of people know him. And the reason why for that is because he puts himself out there. And he's not embarrassed about it. This is the guy that you'll see at the parties that's more alive than anything else. You'll see him talking. He'll go anywhere, discuss what he has to do, say what he has to say. And he usually doesn't hold back. I'm not saying in a bad way, but he usually says what's on his mind. And a lot of people kind of respect it for him. He don't keep things to himself. He's more extroverted than a lot of people that I know and a lot of people that I consider to be extroverted individuals. Branching off of extroversion and popularity, we now focus on popularity and social media. There was a study done by Gill and colleagues in 2018 which focused on exhibitionism as well as extroversion. What they wanted to see was if the amount of self-portraits, which is called selfies now, played a factor in if one was considered extroverted on social media. For this study, they focused on teenagers that had a social media website, which had a social media website called WeChat Friends. For this study, they wanted to see if the number of self-portraits, selfies, played a factor in if one was considered extrovert. And for this study, what they found was there was a correlation between the number of self-portraits and those that are considered extrovert. With that being said, the higher amount of self-portraits that was on a social media site contribute to the amount of friends a person had and more how extroverted they were, compared to those that were considered to be more introverted. Those individuals probably had less pictures and also probably less friends. Now, how does this relate to DT? This is significant to DT because I believe he probably has more self-portraits than he does friends. But even if I go on his site right now, I'm able to see that his self-portraits shows how extroverted he is. And the amount of friends show that self too. Self-portraits usually show that a person is not afraid to express themselves. They're able to put themselves out there. And that's what an extroverted individual tends to do. They love to put themselves out there. They're more sensation seeking. They're more ready to engage in certain activities. For personality and culture, there was a study done by Moradian and colleagues in 2006. This study basically was a meta-analysis that mostly focused on why certain cultures behave in a certain manner. And it told us that cultures have an effect on extroverted behavior, such as the example I would like to give is we are considered as the United States of America to be more of an extroverted society, and compared to Japanese society, which is more introvert. And this is focused more on the environmental differences, such as it's not really cultural differences. It can be biological, but it's more environmental. It's part of where certain people grow up, certain type of cultures, certain type of standards that one has to adhere to. And that comes down to environmental influences as well. And how is this significant to DT? This is significant in two ways. It can be significant from parental influences because not from a biological standpoint, but from an environmental standpoint, his parents probably raised him a certain way. Maybe both his parents, yes, they were extroverted individuals, but they can pass it down to him being an extroverted individual as well. Now, DT overall, he's an exceptional person. He gets a lot of stuff done. He is going to graduate this year. He does everything right. But I consider him to be more of an extroverted individual for many reasons, such as I believe he is more sensation-seeking than any individual that I know. He's more outgoing. He has a lot of outbursts. He just loves taking the most out of life. And that is why I consider him to be the extroverted individual in which I wanted to talk about today. There are many different personality types. There's positives, there's negatives. But for DT, he's considered an extroverted individual and one of my close friends as well. Thank you for listening to my presentation.